from the station working for you. This is WRTV News at 11, streaming now.
Thanks for joining us at 11. I'm Rafael Sanchez in for Nicole Griffin. Tonight, there's tremendous pressure on President Trump to either resign or be removed from office following the deadly siege at the U.S. Capitol. Democrats say they will submit an article of impeachment on Monday, accusing the president of incitement of insurrection. As the investigations into the attack continue, numerous people have already been arrested and charged. Here's ABC's Karina Mitchell with the details.
In the wake of Wednesday's violent attack against the Capitol, House Democrats have announced they'll move forward with plans to impeach President Trump for a second time, following a rally in which his followers later marched to the Capitol.
You'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
The single article of impeachment, incitement of insurrection, set to be introduced on the House floor Monday, charging Trump with, quote, willfully inciting violence against the government. At least 180 representatives, all Democrats, signing on.
He cannot be trusted. He should resign immediately. He is a clear threat to our democracy.
But only a handful of Republicans publicly support the idea. Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania telling Fox News,
I do think the president committed impeachable offenses, but I don't know what is going to land on the Senate floor, if anything.
The president, out of sight at the White House, now banned from Twitter. The social media giant permanently suspending his account, quote, due to the risk of further incitement for violence. Meanwhile, law enforcement is combing through social media posts, surveillance video, and cell phone data for information about those involved in Wednesday's attack.
The activities of those involved in the siege of our Capitol were violent, they were destructive, and those people must be held accountable.
Dozens already arrested, among them Adam Johnson of Florida, charged with theft of government property after he was allegedly spotted carrying House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's lectern. Jacob Chansley, a.k.a. Jake Angeli, charged with entering a restricted building, violent entry, and disorderly conduct. And Richard Barnett, photographed with his feet on Speaker Pelosi's desk, turning himself in Arkansas, also now facing federal charges. Karina Mitchell, ABC News, New York.
Tonight, opinions on what should happen next to the president are all over the place. WRTV spoke to a nationally recognized expert on political engagement. She says removing the president from office through impeachment, she says, is highly unlikely.
Even though impeachment can be passed with a majority in the House, you do need 2/3 of the senators to vote to convict and remove the president from office. And so that seems unlikely. There are some Republican senators who are very upset right now and seem to be distancing themselves from Donald Trump, but that 2/3 threshold is still incredibly high, especially given the short time period that we're looking at.
WRTV and ABC News will bring you the very latest on this developing story on air and on the WRTV app. The state's Attorney General-elect is defending his tweet supporting the president. Todd Rokita tweeted that he will always be with the president. He says he supports the president and his policies and wanted to see if Twitter would shut down his account like they did with the president. And that has not happened for Rokita, who's raising concerns about Twitter's ability to control certain free speech. Rokita says he condemns the violence at the Capitol and the violence from last summer's demonstrations. On Monday, the Attorney General-elect, the governor and lieutenant governor will be sworn in at the Indiana State Museum. The Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court will administer that oath of office at 11 a.m. during a private ceremony. Now to our continuing coverage of the pandemic's impact on Indiana. Another 6,045 Hoosiers have been diagnosed with the virus. The State Department of Health also reported 75 more deaths. The total number now stands at 8,595. Since March, more than 558,000 Hoosiers have been tested for COVID-19, and more than 6 million tests have been administered across our state. More than 2,400 people have died of COVID-19 in just the first 9 days of the year across the United States. That's according to Johns Hopkins University. The university's COVID tracker reports more than 2 million new cases in that same time period. In total, about 22 million people have tested positive, and more than 370,000 in our country have died. Those age 80 and older are showing a huge interest in getting a vaccine. As of today, 75,000 Hoosiers scheduled an appointment to get the first of 2 doses. Now, to register, an individual or a caregiver or a loved one can just call 211. Consider this. People age 80 and older make up less than 4% of the state's population, but represent about 19% of the people being treated for COVID in hospitals, and more than half of the COVID-related deaths in Indiana. It is now time to check on your forecast. A great day, of course, to spend it on maybe the Franklin Greenway, the Monon, the trail of your choice. Kyle, it was beautiful today here in central Indiana.
Yeah, it turned out to be a nice afternoon. Finally seeing some of that sunshine out there, Raphael. And with the clear skies tonight, those temperatures, they fell quickly down to 22 degrees right now in Indianapolis. Fortunately, that wind is fairly light, but you can see here on our Weather Now camera that we do have more of those clouds starting to roll back in here. So I don't think the temperatures will move too far from where they are right now. You're at 21 in Greenfield. Notice, though, around Terre Haute and Sullivan here in the lower 30s, that's where we've still been holding on to that cloud cover. Never really cleared things out there in Spencer, and you can already see those clouds starting to build back in overhead across the Bloomington area. Not going to see any precipitation from those, but we are certainly going to be seeing an increase in clouds, I think, here as we go through tonight and tomorrow morning. If you're heading out there early, yeah, I think you'll need to scrape off a little bit of frost on the windshield, because we'll have temperatures in the lower to middle 20s for us by 10 a.m., partly cloudy and 28. So the weather has been fairly quiet here for a little while. Snow lovers, I'm sure, would like to see a little snow in the forecast. We'll go on the search of that. Your 7-day forecast in just a little bit.
We love the nice weather. Thank you, Kyle. New at 11 in less than an hour, a former Edinburgh police officer will no longer be a member of that police department. The Edinburgh Town Council voted on Friday to terminate Robert Nunez effectively after 12:01 Sunday. Nunez is facing child molestation charges in Johnson County. The 33-year-old is accused of sexual abuse with a child over a 6-year time period that began in 2014. Now, if convicted, the former Edinburgh police officer faces a possible 100 years in prison. From Johnson County now to Bartholomew County, an unattended heating device is being blamed for now possibly causing a mobile home fire. Columbus firefighters, they responded to the flames at the Candlelight Village on the 2600 block of Rosedale Drive. The call for help came in just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. The good news, everyone inside the home got out safely. One person was treated for smoke inhalation. The damage is estimated at about $80,000. Well, no Super Bowl for the Colts fans. A great effort fell short against the Buffalo Bills in a 27-24 loss. The Colts built a lead early in that second quarter, but a 14-point deficit later in the game was just too much to overcome. Phillip Rivers threw 2 touchdown passes. Jonathan Taylor also ran for another score. The win is Buffalo's first in the playoffs in 25 years. Our Brad Brown will join us later with a full recap of the game and reaction from the Colts. No need for a new direction. They know where they're going and what they're doing. Next, the big bucks that will help more people in need. You're watching WRTV News at 11.
Complete. From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 11, streaming now.
New tonight, the Department of Justice says it's not pardoning people involved in the riot at the U.S. Capitol. It points to false social media reports claiming that claim. The DOJ says they're wrong, and it points out that their Office of Pardon Attorney says it does not even have a social media presence. It's getting harder for President Trump's supporters to communicate on the social media platform known as Parler. Apple is removing the app from its store and saying it's home to violent threats and calls for illegal activity. The iPhone maker says it warned Parler but did not see an adequate response from them. Google has already removed Parler from its Play Store, and Amazon is now under pressure to stop hosting it via its web services. President Trump is already locked out of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitch. And by the way, now at the news at 11, we want to do a quick correction, of course. That Edinburgh police officer, his name is Michael Nunes. Again, Michael Nunes will be effectively off the police force at midnight tonight, 12:01. And Eastside Church is getting the chance to make some major changes in the city. WRTV's Troy Washington explains where they're planning to start helping Hoosiers after being awarded a $75,000 grant.
So many different calls to the church and so many different people, even our own parishioners who reach out to us in this time where there's, unemployment numbers have spiked, and we've got people who've lost their jobs and people who have part-time jobs and who used to have full-time jobs.
Pastor Kenneth Sullivan says even though the church isn't holding services inside of these doors right now, there's still a ministry and work being done.
I think this is going to help people rebuild their lives. Obviously, COVID has impacted all of us in a number of different ways.
New Direction Church was selected to receive $75,000 from the Lilly Endowment Fund.
We were blindsided by the blessing. I got a phone call from Lily's endowment, and they said that they wanted to speak to us. It was at the end of 2020. And so I was on the phone conference with them, and they shared with us their desire to help us make a difference. They highlighted us, and they thanked us for the work that we've done in our community. And they said, we want to be a blessing to you all.
Sullivan says the money will go right into his neighborhood. It'll be used to help with rental assistance, groceries for families, and scholarships.
I grew up on the east side of Indianapolis, and so to be able to pastor in the community that I was raised in, that I was reared in, that I grew up in, my stomping grounds, I think there is an old adage, don't forget where you come from.
On top of all of that, the church is pitching in $25,000 of their own funds to do more good.
I think it's important for those of us who go up to go back and give back. And so for me, it's natural.
Working for you on the east side, Troy Washington, WRTV.
The church currently does a drive-through food pantry and plans on using those funds to make sure that more people do not go hungry. New Direction Church does a fantastic job in the community. Another group getting big bucks from the Lilly Endowment is Midwest Food Bank. It received $1 million. The money will buy 40,000 pounds of food such as canned goods and cereal each week for the next 6 months. The food will be distributed to more than 300 food pantries, soup kitchens, and homeless shelters throughout our state. The food bank's executive director says, in part, we are so grateful for this grant at a time when so many are struggling with food insecurity. Now, since March, the Lilly Endowment has made nearly $208 million in grants to help groups responding to the pandemic all across central Indiana. In some parts of the country, the biggest challenge surrounding COVID-19's vaccine is not the distribution, but the misinformation circulating right now online. Dan Grossman, he spoke with health leaders pushing back on the misleading information.
Walk into Dr. Luke McWhorter's office and you'll see it.
It gets frustrating sometimes.
Pokes and jokes at something far more serious than the caricatures on his wall might suggest.
My job is to try to educate people with the knowledge that I have and try to reassure people that what they're doing is safe for them and for their loved ones.
Ever since the development of a vaccine, Dr. McWhorter has been getting questions, and lots of them.
The biggest concern's probably been new technology.
Many are legit, but others are based on claims, conspiracies even, making the rounds on social media.
mRNA vaccines will change your DNA. That is not possible for it to do that.
Definitely some of the 5G and the microchip misinformation.
Heidi Parker gets them too. She works for a nonprofit focused on combating misinformation in Nevada, one of the states with the lowest immunization rates among adults in the country.
We know that this vaccine is the tool that we need, to restore our communities and get past this pandemic.
It might sound obvious, but she says pushing out accurate information through credible sources like doctors and physicians is the best way forward. She acknowledges the small sector of our country that simply won't vaccinate themselves or their children, but says that cohort of people is small enough that it shouldn't impact the fact-driven base looking for accurate information to guide their decisions.
Seeing their peers get vaccinated and hearing from their peers why, they made the decision to get vaccinated, I think is really key.
I had a sore arm for a few days, and that's been it.
Dr. McWhorter is a testament to that. Most of his staff has been vaccinated, and they can use their experiences to reassure those with questions that what they are doing is safe, helpful, and even altruistic.
For the greater good of the population, we need to get the vast majority of people vaccinated so that this pandemic will eventually end.
I'm Dan Grossman reporting.
Temperatures topped out at 31 in Indianapolis this afternoon, so another below average day for us, but we are going to start to warm things up. Out there right now, we've got 22 degrees in the city, 26 for you in Bloomington and Muncie. It's 21 in Kokomo. Here's a look at the big satellite and radar picture because you can see outside of those clouds, there's not a whole lot going on here across central Indiana. There is a storm system off to the south and west, though, and this is going to turn into a winter storm across portions of Texas here. All this pink, a winter storm warning that's in effect. And by the time we get into Monday morning, Waco, Texas may have more snow on the ground than we have had the entire season. They're looking at possibly 4 to 6 inches of snow. Some areas could see a little more than that. So far in the Circle City, just 2.7 inches of snow, and there's our average number. A little over 10 inches is where we should be here. Doesn't look like we're going to be adding up to that anytime soon. So it's kind of hard to say or believe that snow lovers actually need to go down to Texas to get a taste of winter out there. We got 22. We've certainly got some winter-like temperatures, partly cloudy to mostly cloudy skies. So again, those numbers are going to hold pretty steady here the rest of the night as that blanket of cloud cover just off to the west is going to scoot back in here across eastern locations as we go through the overnight. And then on Sunday, mostly cloudy skies out there, a few breaks for us, but we do continue with the quiet weather pattern for us here and temperatures that will get to 30 degrees for you at noon. We'll only get into the lower and middle 30s across much of central Indiana for our Sunday. So again, we may come in just a degree or so below average. That average high is 35. 34 is what we're calling for in Indy, 35 for you in Bloomington, and 37 in the Columbus area. So we've had this chilly air that's in place. Does look like temperatures begin to moderate a little bit though as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday. How about some highs in the 40s in January? Not bad. Also means we're not looking at any snow coming our way. Here's a look at that 7-day planning forecast. Put it all together for you. Highs in the 30s next couple of days. And then we've got a 3-day stretch there with temperatures in the 40s for highs and even some overnight lows that'll be in the lower 30s. A little cooler as we head toward next weekend. Chance for a few flurries to end the week.
Kyle, thank you so much. A lot of yards, but not enough points. There's a lot more of that for the Colts in their wild card loss. And what about the future of their quarterback? That's the big question tonight. Brad's back with all of that next in sports.
Life.
Good evening, everyone. One thing you hear a lot about playoff football from players and coaches alike, there's little room for error. The Colts put up some great numbers Saturday against the Bills. The numbers on the scoreboard, though, did not go in their favor, but the Colts had plenty of chances to advance. The first quarter saw the Colts manage just a field goal, but the offense started to find its stride as the half continued. Jonathan Taylor followed up last weekend's 253-yard rushing performance with a couple of good gains early. His 1-yard touchdown run midway through the second quarter gave the Colts a 10-7 lead.
This is definitely going to be one that's going to kind of linger for a little bit. And it's got to just propel you into the offseason, propel you into your workouts, propel you into, getting your mind and body right for next season.
Taylor finished with 78 yards on 21 carries. Michael Pittman Jr. also had a great start, a trio of big gains for 22, 32, and 31 yards. He was Phillip Rivers' top target early on, another step in the improvement of the young receiver's career.
I have learned more than I ever thought that I could learn. I feel like he pushes me to be better every day. And one thing that I'll take from him is just, I'd say his competitive spirit.
But it was one that Pittman could not get that will get a lot of talk going forward. 4th and goal with 2 minutes to go in the first half. The Colts turned down a short field goal. Frank Reich electing to go for a 10-point lead. That miss led to a 96-yard drive for Buffalo. Josh Allen's touchdown run gave the Bills a 14-10 lead at halftime.
There are no gimmies in this league. I mean, you got it at the one, we can say call it up the middle. But so I don't know. I obviously didn't like that exchange. It's a 14-point swing.
The unfortunate turns continued in the third quarter. Rodrigo Blankenship's field goal attempt off the upright. Second straight game he did that. So the Colts trailed by 7 heading to the fourth. But a pair of fast touchdown drives got the Colts right back in it. Rivers to Zach Pascal for a touchdown, and then Jack Doyle caught a TD and a 2-point conversion. Suddenly, Indy was down by just 3 and seemed to have all the momentum.
We know what Frank, how Frank operates, and Frank told us that before we even, went into this game specifically. And yeah, there's no flinching whenever Frank tells us, to go for it, to punt, to do whatever.
The defense got a couple of sacks to move Buffalo way back on the next drive, but the opportunity for crucial turnovers came up empty time and time again on Saturday.
Do I think we're still climbing? Yes. There's no question. We're definitely climbing all in the right direction, but to not feel this feeling anymore, I honestly couldn't tell you the answer to that, but I can tell you one thing, that this offseason, you got to work like there's no tomorrow. You got to work like this is your last year.
Ultimately, 472 yards of offense would not be enough. In fact, it's the most yards ever gained by a losing team in the playoffs. A team better than one and done, certainly, but it's all over for the Colts just that quickly.
It was a heck of a team to be a part of. So certainly disappointing finish like this when you just believe it's the year, and I think that's the competitor in me. I've never not believed it was the year, but it was a special team to be a part of.
So what about 2021? Many moves potentially to be made in the months ahead, but Philip Rivers was here on just a one-year deal. Will he or won't he be back in a Colts uniform next year? His 17th NFL season ended today with no guarantee that an 18th is in his future.
I mean, I don't go this route with an answer often, but I think this probably sums it up. Whatever God's will is for me and my family, if it's here in Indy playing another year, then we'll be here. And if it's not, I'll be on a sideline somewhere. I know where. I'll be on the sideline with the Ballcat, coaching the heck out of a high school football team down in South Alabama. So at the end of the day, that's clearly what will guide the decision.
The wild card games continue on Sunday. The Ravens and Titans in Tennessee will have that game at 1 o'clock here on WRTV. Pre-game coverage starts at noon. Time for one more break, then we'll wrap up the news at 11. Have a great night.
Listen, you still have a chance to be a multi-millionaire, Kyle. The Mega Millions jackpot has reached $600 million for the fourth time in history. The jackpot increased after no ticket matched all 6 numbers drawn on Friday. Now, while no one got the jackpot, there were 2.5 million winners, none in Indiana, but 5 tickets with the game's second prize. Those were sold in California, Georgia, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York. The jackpot was last won on September the 15th. The next drawing is on Tuesday. And the Indianapolis Motor Speedway's museum is once again welcoming you, guests. It reopened on Friday. The museum closed in November due to a spike in COVID-19 cases in Marion County. In the short term, the museum will be open from 10 until 4 until March the 1st. The Kiss the Bricks track tours, Kyle, resumed also on Friday.
And you might be racing around tomorrow morning. Just keep warm. We've got temperatures that start off there in the lower 20s. We'll get to the middle 30s here on Sunday and Monday. And then how about that? Much of next week, highs are in the 40s.
We'll enjoy the forecast. You have a great Sunday, and I'll see you Monday morning right here on Good Morning Indiana. Have a great weekend.